Karen's sneer could curdle milk from a mile away. She stood in my backyard, her bulk blocking the sunset, preaching about community standards, while her HOA cronies had just torched my life's work. My beehive is 30 of them, each a buzzing testament to years of sweat and love were now smoldering ruins, victims of her illegal power grab. This wasn't just a neighborly spat. It was war, and I'd make sure she paid for every charred frame. I'm Sam, a beekeeper in a quiet suburban cul-de-sac where the air used to hum with life. My bees weren't just a hobby. They were my therapy, my income, and my way of giving back to a world that seemed to take more than it gave. Local restaurants bought my honey. Kids came for school tours, and I'd even won a county award for sustainable practices. But then Karen moved in, elected HOA president faster than you can say entitled. She was the kind of person who'd complain about your grass being half an inch too long, while her own lawn looked like a post-apocalyptic wasteland. Her favorite pastime: making everyone else's life miserable. It started with petty complaints. My beehives, she claimed, were an eyesore and a public safety hazard. Never mind that they were tucked neatly behind a cedar fence, out of sight, or that I'd gotten permits from the city years ago. Karen didn't care about facts. She cared about control. Her emails were a masterclass in passive-aggressive venom. Dear Samuel, perhaps you could consider relocating your insects to a more appropriate setting, for the sake of our community's aesthetic. I ignored her, thinking she'd tire herself out. Big mistake. One sweltering July afternoon, I came home to a nightmare. My backyard was a haze of smoke, the acrid stench of burnt wood and wax choking the air. My hives, me beautiful, thriving hives, were blackened skeletons, the bees either dead or scattered. I stood there, heart pounding, as my neighbor Tom ran over, his face pale. Sam, it's the power lines, he stammered. They've been messing with them. I saw sparks earlier. I followed his gaze to the utility pole at the edge of my property. A shoddy, makeshift splice connected my line to a new cable running straight to the HOA's clubhouse. It didn't take a genius to figure out what happened. The HOA, led by Karen, had illegally tapped into my power line to avoid paying for their own electricity. The overloaded circuit sparked, caught the dry grass, and spread to my hives. My life's work was gone because Karen wanted free lights for her tacky HOA parties. Fury doesn't begin to describe what I felt. I marched to the clubhouse, where Karen was holding court, sipping lemonade like she hadn't just committed a felony. Karen, I said, voice shaking, your little power theft just burned down my hives. You're going to pay for this. She didn't even flinch. Oh, Samuel, she drawled, her voice dripping with condescension. Don't be so dramatic. Bees are pests. You should thank us for cleaning up your mess. The other HOA members snickered, but I saw Tom and another neighbor, Lisa, exchange uneasy glances. They knew Karen had gone too far. I didn't waste time arguing. I called the police, who confirmed the illegal tap after a quick inspection. The utility company was next, and their technician's report was damning. The splice was a fire hazard, unpermitted, and directly responsible for the blaze. Karen's smugness faltered when the cops started asking questions, but she doubled down, claiming it was a simple oversight and that I was overreacting. Oversight? My foot. She'd planned this, thinking I'd roll over like everyone else in the neighborhood. I wasn't that guy. I'd lost too much to let her walk away. My bees weren't just livestock. They were family. Each hive had a name: Matilda, Beatrice, Clover, each a story of resilience. I'd spent years learning their rhythms, nursing them through harsh winters, celebrating every jar of golden honey. Now, all I had left were ashes and a burning need for justice. I hired a lawyer, Elena, who was as fierce as Karen was vile. "Sam," she said, her eyes gleaming, "we're not just suing for damages. We're going after punitive." Karen's HOA is about to learn a very expensive lesson. Elena dug into the HOA's records and found a gold mine: years of financial mismanagement, unpermitted projects, and complaints from other neighbors too scared to speak up. The illegal tap was just the tip of the iceberg. The lawsuit was a beast. We sued for property damage, lost income, emotional distress, and punitive damages to punish the HOA's reckless behavior. Karen tried to play the victim, showing up to court in a frumpy dress, dabbing her eyes with a tissue like she was auditioning for a soap opera. "I only wanted to beautify our community," she sniffled. The judge wasn't buying it. Neither was the jury, especially after Elena presented photos of my ruined hives and the utility company's report. The trial was a circus. Karen's defense was a mix of denial and deflection. She claimed the tap was done by an unlicensed contractor she'd never met. But the paper trail led straight to her. Emails showed she'd approved the project to cut costs for the HOA's new outdoor lighting. She even had the gall to countersue me, claiming my bees were a nuisance. Elena tore that argument apart, pointing out that Karen had never filed a formal complaint before the fire. The jury's faces said it all. They loathed her. Halfway through the trial, Lisa, the quiet neighbor who'd watched Karen's reign of terror for years, found her courage. She testified about Karen's bullying, how she'd threatened fines for minor infractions, like a mailbox that was too colorful, or demanded Lisa remove her vegetable garden because it lowered property values. Lisa's voice shook as she described finding her own garden trashed after refusing to pay an HOA fine. "Karen runs this neighborhood like a dictator," she said. The courtroom went silent. Even the judge leaned forward. Tom testified next, recounting how he'd warned Karen about the sparks days before the fire. "She told me to mind my own business," he said, his voice heavy with regret. "I should have done more." His testimony sealed the deal. The jury saw Karen for what she was, a petty tyrant who'd gambled with other people's lives and lost. The verdict came on a crisp October morning. The jury awarded me $250, $000 for damages and lost income, plus $500, $000 in punitive damages to send a message. The HOA, already drowning in debt from Karen's mismanagement, couldn't pay. They declared bankruptcy a week later, and Karen's reign ended in a whimper. Her house went into foreclosure when she couldn't cover her legal fees. And last I heard, she'd moved to a rundown apartment complex across town. The neighborhood threw a quiet party when her moving van pulled away. I used the money to rebuild. New hives, new bees, a new start. It wasn't the same Matilda, Beatrice, and Clover were gone forever, but I named the first new hive justice. Every jar of honey I bottled felt like a small victory, a reminder that bullies like Karen only win if you let them. The neighborhood changed too. We voted out the old HOA board, replaced it with people like Lisa and Tom, who cared about community over control. We even started a co-op to sell my honey, with profits funding a local pollinator garden. Karen's downfall wasn't just about money or hives. It was about standing up to someone who thought they could trample everyone else and walk away clean. She underestimated me, underestimated the bees, underestimated the power of a community fed up with her nonsense. I'd lost a lot, but I gained something too, the knowledge that sometimes the little guy can sting back. The end.